Happy Tuesday to everybody out there in the fantasy universe. Welcome to Fantasy NBA Today, a Sports Ethos production with yours truly, Aaron Bruski and FSWA Hall of Famer Steve, Dr. A. Alexander. Today, we're going to be continuing our recap of the top now 24 basketball players in 8-cat formats by totals. We're going to be discussing number 13 through 24 and actually probably getting deeper into these players than we thought we would be. But before we do that, let's say hello to BetOnline. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform, your number one source for all your sports betting action. Baseball season, it's in full swing. We're in the NBA and NHL playoffs, and BetOnline has more ways to stay in on the action with the latest odds, news, and scores. Even live in-game betting while the games are being played with the largest selection of odds on everything from the MLB, NBA, NHL, and UFC. BetOnline remains the best online source for all your sports wagering info. And in between games, head over to the BetOnline casino with all the top Vegas-style games, including poker and live casino. BetOnline, the game starts here. Doc, how you doing?
Dude, I got a kind of a quick funny story here. My buddy Jason coached Soren's football team when Soren was a little wee lad, and they got to the Super Bowl when he was like 7 years old, and I managed to not hear my alarm go off. No one in my house woke up, and we slept through Soren's Super Bowl game. So the other day we had an earthquake in Dahlonega at 9:05 a.m. and I slept right through that. And everybody's talking about on Facebook, "Oh my God, did you feel that? Did you feel that?" And so I put on Facebook, I somehow managed to sleep right through the earthquake. And that football coach said 1 Super Bowl, 2 earthquake. He's like, "You've got a good streak going." And I said, "Oh, I also slept through a podcast I was supposed to be hosting at noon about a month ago." He's like, "I'm going to add that to the list of things you've slept through because I want to make sure we keep it current." So his list right now is podcast, earthquake, and Super Bowl. Kids Super Bowl.
Hey, I didn't know you did that, Doc. And now I'm extraordinarily upset as your quote-unquote boss. I'm so upset that you did that.
Well, I think you were here. Oh, no, it was me and Rick. No, I left Rick hanging.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Now I know things. But I slept through a fire alarm once.
Nice.
Which is, I don't know. I when I get my sleep, I guess I need my sleep. But
dude, you would think at noon. You would think at noon, I could make it to the podcast by noon.
You know, people don't know basketball time. And I know when we were going big over at NBC, it was like go to bed at like 6 a.m. and wake up at like 11 a.m. Pacific time. That was like a day in my life. And sometimes I would wake up at like 2. And everybody in the NBA, especially in the middle of the season when they get done with their media and then they go to the bar right afterwards, it's like 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. before all these guys go to sleep. So that life, it's a little tough. Hard to do, but
we're breaking down the 13 through 24 player list from this past season today. Is that correct?
Yeah. I'm extraordinarily excited about it because it's got a weird, eclectic vibe to this mix. Extraordinarily excited about this because, I mean, I think we're going to have I think we'll probably say a lot of the same thing regarding this list of players. If I had to guess, we're going to be pretty down on most of these players, but they finished where they finished and they are pretty good at what they do. And so it probably represents something of an interesting draft next season. And let's get right to it. So we had at number 13, Devin Booker climbed up the ranks, played 75 games. That's a big factor here, 37 minutes per game. So, I mean, it was a lot of volume. He was the 23rd ranked player in a per game basis for 8-cat. He finished a little bit worse in 9-cat totals with 17. So 13 and 8-cat, 17 and 9-cat. But Booker, one of the most boring players in fantasy hoops, did it again. Finished into the second round. So we're going to look at these players and determine, does this rank represent them? Do we expect more or less from them next season? And, kind of what are you doing next season with them? So starting with Devin Booker, like, what do you think? I mean, Phoenix is a bit of a mess, but where does he sit next season?
He's sort of like a poor man's Jason Tatum. Like, he doesn't do anything really well, but he does everything sort of okay. His steals and blocks are lacking, but he's a really good scorer. I don't know. I like Booker. I think I like Booker better in reality than I do in fantasy. Like, I don't seem to ever draft Devin Booker, but I don't have a problem with Devin Booker.
I mean, how much change is really going to occur in Phoenix is kind of one question that I have. Like, they're kind of talking like they're going to run it back or that they like what they have.
Yeah,
But
didn't he say, like, the only thing I'm working on right now is finding these guys a new coach so we can get ready for next year. And it's I don't like this whole Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal combo. It's horrible.
I mean, the good news is it does feel like Kevin Durant doesn't want to be around in Phoenix. And Bradley Beal is probably persona non grata in Phoenix after his no trade clause, pardon me, kept Phoenix from being able to get in on the Jimmy Butler sweepstakes, if you will. 50 games for Bradley Beal, about 60 for Kevin Durant. So there's your volume and your usage that, without those two guys around, Devin Booker could theoretically eat as much as he wants. My question would be is like, how much better does it possibly get for Devin Booker in that case? Because 13, that's a great finish for him. And if that's going to basically be something he could theoretically improve upon, I mean, people might be looking at Devin Booker as like a late first round potential guy, but doesn't that feel just a little bit off? Like, yeah, it's a roto setting that I'm probably talking about this in. These ranks are totals ranks. Head-to-head GMs probably focus more on per game value.
Yeah.
How does that make you?
Pretty healthy though? I mean, I think like it feels like it's a fairly accurate spot for him, right? Because he plays in a lot of games and he scores a lot of points, but he just doesn't have a roto-friendly game.
I kind of oscillate back and forth. I don't want Devin Booker on my team, generally speaking, but maybe it's because he's so boring, and he's never going to be like in the second round. I think this guy's the guy to target. I'm just going to keep drafting Devin Booker as much as I can. But right now, based on these metrics in an 8-cat format, if those two big usage pieces go elsewhere and they do fashion this team around Devin Booker, like maybe he's a value guy. So I'm intrigued. Where would you draft Booker next season?
I might take him in the third round, but I really don't want to. I mean, there's so many guys there's going to be so many guys that are on my list and Devin Booker's not going to be one of them, that I'll be reaching for a young player I like better than Booker when I would be taking Booker. So I think this is much like Rick was saying yesterday with he's not going to draft Dyson Daniels because he just knows that he's going to be drafted too early. Somebody's going to take Booker before I'm even close to being ready. So he will not be on my team.
I think formats are going to matter a ton here. And at the same time, it might just be as simple as Devin Booker will be drafted in the second round because Devin Booker gets drafted in the second round. It happens every season, and it just is. My question for my own purposes, will Devin Booker be drafted closer to like 24 and have potential to be like 15 or 10, and maybe there's some profit margin built in when you're looking at totals ranks. But then there is some injury risk there, and Devin Booker has I don't know. My mind would be traveling if I had to play in Phoenix the next 3 to 5 seasons, and knowing what they gave up to make that trade to get Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal, like that they have no future in Phoenix. I'd be a little pissed off about that if I was Devin Booker. So a lot to kind of take in there for Phoenix, but this list is eclectic. It's eclectic because, like, for example, number 14, Tyler Herro, a 25 per game rank. He did great in 9-cat as well, basically the same rank by totals in 9-cat. He played a lot of games. Let me get the exact number here in front of me. 77 for Tyler Herro. He was one of those classic. He hasn't played that many games in his career, and he can't possibly do that forever. He needs to play some games at least one time in his career. So he plays 77 games at 35 minutes a contest between him and Bam Adebayo. They represented everything for that Miami team offensively. And here he is next season with the Heat facing some kind of a decision. We're going to find out a lot in the next weeks, even with Pat Riley talking about Miami needing change. The Miami Herald and Ira Winderman, who's usually plugged in to everything, talking about, should we build around these two players? I think teams kind of like by default say, yeah, we're going to build around our best two guys and we're going to pay them and get sucked into that. And then they kind of find out on the back end that it's not worth it. But maybe it feels like Miami is ahead of the game with that. And they know they can't win with these two guys. And the question for Herro will be, can you win with Tyler Herro because of his defense in the playoffs? Can he be the guy that you fashion everybody or everything around? So Tyler Herro maybe could be on the go, is what I think. But that said, like, what are you doing with Tyler Herro this upcoming season? Do you think he's going to have a repeat of these great numbers?
I don't know, man. It feels like he's ranked higher than he should be. Last year, he was being drafted right around 30. He did have a career year, 23.9 points, career high, 5.5 assists, career high, 3.3 threes, career high, 47% shooting, career high. So, I mean, I don't know how much better he can play. 77 games, career high. So everything was up for him last year. But he still gets less than a steal a game. He still doesn't block any shots. His percentages are really good. His turnovers are relatively low, 2.6. I guess the question is Davion Mitchell going to come back and be the point guard of this team next season? And if he is, are those assists going down for Herro? Are they staying the same? Who's he going to be playing next to? I don't know. I feel like I'm not taking Tyler Herro in round 1 or 2. I will take him late round 3.
I mean, formats matter here, per game versus totals versus roto versus head-to-head. I do think there's some distinction there because he's got great percentages. I mean, 47% on 18 attempts per game. That is rather good for somebody who's scoring as much as he is. And then 88% from the foul line on 4 attempts per game. That's very good. And you might not care as much in a head-to-head format about those things. So I think you're right on with everything you said. Like, there's too many career bests in there to get attached to. I really respect his game. If I was Miami, I would sell Tyler Herro and build around Davion Mitchell at a discount and let Davion Mitchell handle the point guard role and figure out what you're going to do with Bam Adebayo. Probably keep Bam and just try to rebuild this thing from the ground up rather than committing, the next 2 to 3 seasons to that tandem, which I don't know that they're going to move the needle in the Eastern Conference at all. So, that's my take there.
We also need to see what they do because the way they went out in the playoffs was as bad as we've ever seen. That I remember seeing in the NBA postseason. It's got to be historically bad. It was embarrassing. Pat Riley's embarrassed. Eric Spoelstra's embarrassed. Tyler Herro embarrassed. All of them.
Mickey Arison embarrassed.
And a lot. Jimmy Butler left a lot of stuff in the air when he left Miami, and they never recovered. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But no matter what happens, I think Tyler Herro, he's just a 30 guy. You take him around 30, and it doesn't even matter where he is or who he's playing with.
People will take him before 30, I think. If it's still the two of them.
Maybe in Roto, because like you said, the percentages are good.
I think if it's Herro and Bam and still kind of a cast of nobody or low usage guys, I think that he'll go in the 25, maybe early, or say 22, 23 range. Too rich for my blood, probably, depending on how things shake out there in Miami. Next up on our list, we're gonna have a lot of this here today, folks, which tells you a lot about drafting. I mean, that second round is pretty crazy. Ivica Zubac finished number 15 in 8-cat totals. His per game rank was 49. He played in 80 games. This is why there's such a disparity there. 9-cat, he was the 9th overall player in by totals in fantasy leagues. And, you know, it's easy to dismiss totals, but this guy was there for you every single night, every single playoff matchup. He was there. It didn't matter if Kawhi Leonard was in or out of the lineup. This guy was just there. You never had to think about all the waiver plays that you made when you avoided centers because you didn't need them because Ivica Zubac was just there, and you could just go focus your attention and firepower in other places. So that's why I really hesitate to give the per game side, you know, as much weight as a lot of people do out there. But what do you think about Zubac? Can he do this again next season?
I don't know, man, but the numbers were crazy. Like 80 games, career high, 32.8 minutes after he played 26 the year before. That's 6 more minutes a game, dude. The field goal percentage is always phenomenal. Free throw percentage sucks. That was a career low 66, but he went from 11.7 points up to 16.8. So that's what, 5-point jump. And the rebounds went up from 9.2 to 12.6. That's almost 3.5. And the blocks are solid at 1.1, and the steals were a career high 0.7. A lot of that is tied to the minutes and the games. And he was just so automatic every night. Like you knew you could count on a double-double with a block from Zubac every single night. And he made the Clippers a better team because he was so reliable and he was so good. If he gets the minutes and if he stays healthy, I don't see why he wouldn't do this again next year. He did this with Norm Powell and with Jimmy Harden and with Kawhi Leonard all having good seasons. So I'm not going to draft Ivica Zubac with a 15th pick in my draft. I'm just not going to.
Let's say
but I love what he did.
We're in the kind of say the 40s, his per game ranks, and getting the pub that he got this last season kind of feels to me like in a one center format that devalues the center position, that he still probably goes in the 40s this upcoming season. So 4th round ish. You know, you're getting a lockdown center with no competition behind him. But it almost feels like there's no chance at all he gets drafted in the 3rd round. Like whatsoever.
Yeah.
Maybe in a 2-center format where people are being super aggressive.
And I feel like if you can get him in the 4th round or even 5th round, like you're getting tons of value there.
I think he could slide big time in leagues that don't kind of ever look at stuff like this, you know, where they're just like, okay, he gets you 17 points and 12.5 rebounds, but I don't get any blocks. And they kind of just, what's the appeal here? You know, but maybe he drops into the 50s in those leagues. So it's almost possible that Zubac is lined up for almost like a guaranteed profitable season if he just does what he did this last season. And I don't know, for me, it doesn't seem like he's going to regress like in his skills. He's not going to get worse at scoring. He's not going to get probably demonstrably worse at rebounding. He's just going to be the same guy. You know, maybe around the edges he declines a little bit due to age or something, but he's not old. So Zubac has a lot of interesting potential for him. Same kind of boat. Josh Hart was the number 16 ranked fantasy play in 8-cat formats, number 13 in 9-cat. He played 77 games. He played 37.6 minutes per game. So the per minutes aren't as good as the overall aggregate whole here, but he is that's an outstanding season for a guy that folks got in like the 80s or the 90s or maybe the 70s, depending on how aggressive people were looking at Josh Hart. There's not right now, as we're in the middle of the NBA playoffs and the Knicks are still alive, there's not a big talk about what's going to happen next year. Are they going to bring in this player? Are they going to get rid of this player? What are they going to do? You know, a lot of people want to get to New York always. And so things could change, but like, it kind of feels like they are who they are, and the potential for them to run it back, it's pretty real. How do you feel about Josh Hart? Like, he's a per game guy in the 30s, probably 25 if I had to guess in 9-cat per game, getting you second to third round value per game. Are you going to lean into that next season?
I feel like I will. I faded Josh Hart last year. I doubted Josh Hart because he played 81 games the season before, played 33 minutes and averaged 9 points, 8 boards, 4 assists, and a steal and a 3. And I was like, well, I don't know if he can do that again. But then the way the Knicks team ended up being reshaped by the time it was all said and done, Josh Hart was the guy, and Dante DiVincenzo was gone, and some of those other guys were gone. And Josh Hart's a huge part of what they do. He's the best rebounding guard in the league. 9.6 boards and 6 dimes with 13.5 points this year and a steal and a half. If he's going to be on the court for those kind of minutes for Tom Thibodeau, you have to respect that. Like, if he stays healthy, he's going to rack up a ton of stats.
There's going to be the factor that I don't think people largely outside of the super, degenerate set that know he's a number 16 overall player or number 13, depending on 8 or 9 cat. There's going to be the fact that people don't respect Josh Hart's fantasy game, I think, at large. But 10 rebounds, 6 assists, 1.5 steals, and then you get the 13.6 points and the triple on top of it with good field goal percentage and free throw percentage you can more or less live with. Low turnovers, but it's interesting. It feels like he gets almost all of his value off of one characteristic, and which is that he is they box out for him because they know he's such a good fast break player that they want him to get the rebound. He's good at getting the rebound. He's built to go get rebounds. He gets those rebounds, and then he's got the ultra green light to go. And then, or even get the first pass off of the rebound. And so he's constantly in charge of the fast break. It's like, that's his domain. And if it's not going to work, then it goes back to Brunson. He gets the ball and he goes, he gets all his assists off that. He gets the high field goal percentage off of those shot types. He gets everything as a result of that. And it's fantasy gold. So I think he's going to be undervalued heading into next year's drafts because there's going to be all these big name players ahead of him, like this next guy. Domantas Sabonis. But to close out the Hart thing, I'll just say that I think he'll be undervalued. I just don't know where he's even going to go.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. Like, how? Because I know that I'm going to be sitting there during my draft, and I'm going to be in the 4th round, and Josh Hart's going to be sitting there, and I'm going to be like, ooh, I kind of like Josh Hart, but do I need to take him this early? Well, I'll wait and see if he's there in the 5th round. And the 5th round might get there and be like, oh, he's still there. Will he be there in the 6th round? And like, how far do you gamble that he will fall? Because last year, I think he was going late in drafs, right? Like,
yeah, I don't have it in front of me, but
yeah, I don't either. But I feel like he was going like in the 8th, 9th, 10th. And
for those situations, yes. In head-to-head situations, yes. In roto situations, probably maybe like 6th or 7th. It was annoying because you knew Josh Hart would be good. You just didn't probably know it was going to be this good. And then the trade absolutely opened things up.
And now we know. And if they don't make any major changes, we know the same thing's going to happen again next year.
Yeah, I was so pissed. There was a group of players like Zubac. I wasn't high enough on Zubac. I wasn't high enough on Hart. And unfortunately didn't catch any of that action. But it's good. And it's going to be good next season. Just dependent upon how things end in New York this season and what they do. I'm going to move us along here. We're going to go to Domantas Sabonis. He finished with a per game of basically 20 for both 8 and 9 cat format, and he finished at 17. Really, if you drafted Domantas Sabonis, you're probably a little disappointed because sometimes he's, I think, getting drafted at 11, 12. Maybe some people reached up and got him at like 8 or 9 or 10 or something like that. And at the end of the day, like if you draft somebody at 12 and they finish at 20, that's not killing your fantasy team. You can make a small argument that it's good for your fantasy team to just not get a bad result there. let the weight of all of your other choices take the day. But I got Sabonis thoughts, but
he will be drafted in almost every league before Ivica Zubac will.
oh
And
god, yeah.
And he shouldn't be. 0.7 steals, 0.4 blocks, 0.4 3-pointers. So he's basically a double-double. He's not a great free throw shooter either. It might be the most overrated fantasy basketball player in the NBA.
It's getting, I mean, that and overrated on the reality side. It's
and I like him. I like watching him play.
I love watching him play. I'm glad you said that, because I take so much heat in Sacramento as being like anti-Sabonis, and I got to tell you, after watching Corey Joseph run the team and Luke Walton coach, like watching Domantas Sabonis out there free flowing the offense, it's a beautiful thing. But you also picked up Zach LaVine and you have DeMar DeRozan, and there's so many problems in Sacramento that, you could spend an entire episode on that. But when you pick up those two guys, in particular, you have Malik Monk, these players make it difficult to run a Domantas Sabonis driven dribble handoff style offense, because they just want nothing to do with that handoff. Like Malik Monk does, he loves it, but like LaVine doesn't want it, DeRozan doesn't want it, and that's just, so I'm actually kind of surprised, given those situations, that Sabonis finished as well as he did. But that's set against Domantas. I don't think he wants to be in Sacramento anymore. And I think what he's going to try to do is push his way out while the value is high-ish. Not really, because I don't think anybody in the league wants Domantas Sabonis at his number, unless it's like San Antonio could theoretically want him to play next to Wemby. But would De'Aaron Fox want to play with Domantas Sabonis after the way everything went down in Sacramento? So Sabonis is kind of a guy without a city, even though in Sacramento they still love him and think that, it was a good trade and all that, and they want to build around him. But I think Sabonis doesn't want to be the lead guy on a sinking ship in the prime of his career. And I think he thinks he can go out there and command, destination. And so it could get messy. So my question for people who want to draft Domantas Sabonis would be, like, is that messiness going to fix itself before the start of the regular season, or is it all going to take place during the season? And that's where I don't think his stats will fall off so much, but things get weird in weird situations where people want out and, teams don't have futures. So for those reasons, I would be mostly fading, but not to a large degree, Domantas Sabonis, because he's just going to get his stats when he's out there, and that's going to be that. If you have anything else to add on Sabonis, feel free, but I'll move us to the next, possibly one of the most complicated and consequential topics in fantasy hoops is Victor Wembanyama, who finished 18 in 8 cat, number 2 per game, number 12 in 9 cat leagues on totals. Obviously, the injury was the driving factor here, but what are your Victor Wembanyama thoughts? We talked about it a little bit last show, but let's go a little bit deeper here. Where are you at with him and why?
Dare I say polarizing? He might be polarizing at this point.
We were supposed to exclude him from leagues. I was a part of that talk, actually.
Well, I mean, dude, we're not. I mean, it's still possible that happens. The kid is 21 years old. So we have a long way to go. And what he did his rookie year and what he did last year, and he had a blood clot that stopped him. It wasn't like a sprained ankle or fell and broke his wrist. I mean, it's just a fluke. Very serious thing, but the numbers, I mean, my goodness, 24 points, 11 boards, 4 assists, 4 blocks, a steal, 3 threes, 84% from the free throw line, 48% from the floor. Like, it's still the total package, and he hasn't even scratched the surface yet because he still hasn't grown into his body. He still isn't as built and bulked as he'll be at some point. If he's healthy coming in the next season, I'm still probably taking him number 1. That is probably dumb to be that disrespectful to Nikola Jokic. He proved again this year that he is the man, but there's still so much upside with Wemby, and it all depends on your risk, your risk versus reward tolerance. But I have not been unhappy with anything I've seen from Wemby after 2 seasons in the league. The only thing is that blood clot and the injury stuff hanging over his head coming into next year adds a lot of risk if you're going to take him in the first couple picks.
It's such a weird thing that that he had a blood clot and there's no news about it really. It's been a bit since I went looking. My thoracic outlet syndrome Facebook groups are all over it. At least they were when the news came out. It's not like they're all basketball heads in that group. But if he had the surgery that I had, it's the same surgery that Kyle Anderson and that Markelle Fultz had. And those guys' shots were completely altered by it. The surgery itself is incredibly destabilizing for the collarbone area of your body, which just happens to be the upward motion of a shot. I just did a quick search on Twitter, and the only other person talking about TOS since I did on February 22nd was another doctor who's a vascular surgeon. I quickly looked up. He's actually definitely a doctor. So I'm not saying this guy knows anything at all. I'm just saying he likely has TOS, which requires the surgery I had. I wonder if he had that surgery, what does this do to his career outlook? I mean, we're talking about one of the bigger swings. If it is that, if he did have that, if it does go the way that it went for those 2 other players, I mean, you're talking about an all-time potential great. People who were talking about excluding from fantasy leagues to somebody who could really have a lot of trouble if it got to the degree of needing that surgery because those nerves and those veins are compressed. Wow. It's just like a major swing for somebody so young. So hopefully it's not that. Hopefully it's short of those situations, but we haven't heard a thing about it. And I guess we'll hear about it more as next season approaches. But if they're tight-lipped in San Antonio, I mean, you don't got to look forward to kind of figure out what it might be. I think if we get the all clear with Wemby, he's fine. He's going to start the season. He's going to play. Then we're really just talking basketball stuff. What's De'Aaron Fox going to look like with him? And there was, a lot more of a pick and pop situation with Wemby and Fox than Fox was accustomed to with Sabonis in Sacramento, where it was more of a dribble handoff, but also with those other guys that I mentioned. So it was a little bit weird in Sacramento, but Fox playing off of Wemby. I guess my thing with Wemby is I want to see that dude down at the basket, using his length, getting a lot of high percentage shots, and not just becoming a 3-point chucker. Because if he's a 3-point chucker, the field goal percentage will just not be as good as guys like Nikola Jokic and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And he will struggle in formats where percentages matter. And if you don't care about percentages and you then only care about like blocks per se, then it doesn't matter. But that's then the next problem with Wemby is his value coming from a category that's got a lot of variance, and how much can you win a blocks category by every single week? And do you lose value by drafting Victor Wembanyama? So he's got a lot of question marks for me. Where do you think he will be drafted next season? Like green lights on all the medical stuff, it's just sort of normal going into the season. Do you think he gets number 2?
Yep.
Just flat out number 2.
2 or 3.
And will you be riding that ride?
I think Jokic is going to be number 1, and then it'll be Wemby or SGA.
Will you take him at 3?
Yeah, if we get the all clear and the green light, yeah, he's my boy.
I love it. I love it a lot. Let's see. Who's next on our list here? We've got, as I switch too many screens, where were we? Do you happen to have that, Doc? Or I got it right here. We got,
I do.
Here, why don't you run it? What do we got?
We've got Kevin Durant.
Who dat?
Kevin Durant, number 19, 8 cat per game rank. And then his 8 cat per game rank was 10. His 9 cat total rank was 23. So Kevin Durant comes in at 19, and he currently plays for the Phoenix Suns. I don't know.
Currently,
It does not feel to me like he's going to be back with the Suns. It feels like this is going to be the summer of Kevin Durant, right?
a pretty good acquisition for a championship
And,
level squad.
I've heard Houston, I've heard Milwaukee.
Everybody just likes to say Houston for everything.
Right? KD's still gonna KD. He's still good. He's still relevant. But his last few stops in the NBA have not gone very well. They've been rough. So I don't know, man.
I'm actually kind of
really
hyped.
Evaluate him until we know where he's going to be.
Well, that's totally true. But the fun thing is when he joined the Golden State Warriors, he was still pretty damn good. And I like the idea that he just came off a 62-game season, that he's old, and maybe he goes to a place where he'll defer a little bit. And I think people will be a little bit soft on Kevin Durant. Nobody will be excited probably to draft him, but that stat said it sings.
Depends on when you can get him. Like, he falls. I'm not. Nobody wants him in the first round.
Yeah, I don't think he gets drafted in the first.
He's going to be 37 years old by the time we're drafting.
It's going to be an interesting combination of things, like Devin Booker, Tyler Herro, Ivica Zubac, Josh Hart. Nobody's like jumping up and down for that group of players, generally speaking. You got big names in Domantas and Victor Wembanyama, and then KD kind of comes in here. And even our next guy on the list, Jaren Jackson Jr. There's just a lot of risk, and I don't think anybody's comfortable with this set of names that finished in this range in this past season's fantasy season. Like, I don't think they're that excited about him. So anyway, Kevin Durant, I think, will be a second round pick. Hopefully he falls to the back end of the second round, where I think there's some pretty good value for him next season. But Jaren Jackson Jr., let's get to that. He finishes at 20. His per game rank was 38. These are 8 cat ranks, 9 cat, a few ranks better. We bagged on him all summer for rebounding. I don't think that there's any, there was no lies told. He had 5.5 rebounds this year. How do you feel about Jaren Jackson this season and next?
Dude, why can't he get a rebound? I can't. I want to love this guy like as much as Jonas Nader loves Jaren Jackson Jr. But it's so hard. It's so hard with no rebounds. But
he didn't have that many blocks.
The 2 threes, the 1 point steal, 1.2 steals, and 1.5 blocks. Like, that's, he averaged 3 blocks in 2022/2023. So why are we down to 1.5 now?
Zach Edey's
part of it, but God, the rebounds, it's so annoying. I like Jaren Jackson Jr. still. I think I don't know that I like him in the second round. I like him as a third round player.
I don't know. I think I think the blocks thing will probably freak some people out, but by and large, he has the biggest name. Like, I could see him go ahead of Josh Hart. I could see him go ahead of Tyler Herro. I could see him go ahead of Booker even. I could see him go ahead of Zubac.
He probably will go in front of all those guys.
Probably go in front of Kevin Durant just because of the name. He's a classic less is more guy. Like, the minute they said, you're not taking crazy shots anymore, he's going to shoot 48.8% from the field, 78 from the foul. Like, but it's a weird, eclectic little season for him. And I would like to see him lose about 10 pounds. He feels like he plays heavy. But yeah, it's going to be like, if you take Jaren Jackson in the second round, you feel like you took a big risk, right? And is the ROI there? Like, you're not going to get that first round pop probably from Jaren Jackson Jr. And you got bad vibes in Memphis. It's a weird thing, but I don't think he falls to round 3. I think people begrudgingly take him right around where he finished last season. So really interesting stuff there. If you have a thought about that, feel free to pin it in here. But Nikola Vucevic finished 21, and he does this in totals ranks, 32 per game. By and large, a pretty good season for him. 11 and 9 cap, by the way, on totals. So, I mean, in a roto setting, Vucevic cleaned up. Everybody predicted the demise of the Bulls and that he would be traded and on and on and on. Are you going to go to the well for Vucevic?
Yeah, I think I want Zubac. I don't want Vooch. He's going to be 35 years old.
That's
by
rough.
the time the season starts. And I thought we were seeing the decline start a couple of years ago when his average went from 21 to 17. But he's been holding steady at 18 and 18 and a half points over the last 2 seasons. The rebounds are still there. The threes are still there. He's good free throw shooter. Like, there's really nothing wrong with his game. I just don't trust him. There is a block problem. He's been at 0.7 or 0.8 for 3 straight seasons, but I just am waiting for Chicago to blow it up and to move him somewhere where he's not getting so many looks, or for Chicago to bring in somebody young who's going to take away from what Vooch does. So far, he's been an old faithful, old reliable, but the decline has to start sometime soon.
Yeah, and no real heir apparent, at least for anchoring the block, waiting in the wings. So it would have to be somebody they get in the draft or somebody that they get via trade. So Vooch at this point is very likely to be at least in the discussion that he's been in the past few seasons, which is a late first round pick, typically kind of going in the 30s. Especially when formats start to trend towards season long and full season, and also toward 2 centers. So Vucevic has been a hot topic in those leagues. The next guy is going to be a very hot topic because he won Defensive Player of the Year. He oozes potential, and that is Evan Mobley. His rank was 30 his per game rank was 30 in 8 cat, finished 22 overall, 9 cat rank, basically the same. This guy's, he's got so much potential. But I think, playing in Cleveland with Jared Allen there, what does that do to him? Does he get a 2nd round draft pick this year? Or is he going to kind of be drafted where he was this last season in the 3rd?
That's a great question. It reminds me of Karl Anthony Towns playing alongside Rudy Gobert, right? Like, Towns is a lot more fun when Rudy Gobert is not around. And I think if Mobley could shake Jared Allen somehow, we would have the same thing. But even next to Jared Allen, 18 points, 9 boards, 1.6 blocks, steal a game, 3 a game. Mobley's still doing it. 1.6 blocks and 0.9 steals doesn't really sound Defensive Player of the Year to me. 9 rebounds. I feel like I'm as big of an Evan Mobley fan as there is, and I was even shaking my head. I thought Dyson Daniels, he was that dude. I feel like he was, but anyway, I love Mobley. I think if you want him, you're probably going to have to take him late 2nd round. Maybe he falls into the 3rd in some leagues. But you're right, man. If he did not have to play alongside Jared Allen, I think we'd see these numbers pop a lot more.
Yeah, and it's going to make it to where the value, it's going to be questionable whether you get the value at that spot, but probably a pretty good chance. That will probably make him a solid pick. The next on the list is Bam Adebayo. He finished at 23, largely because he played 78 games. He had a per game rank of 54 in 8 cat. and then similar numbers in 9-cat. I got to call this a really good season for him. I've been fading Bam forever. And this season I wished I hadn't, because, that top 22 finish or whatever, that really did, as I looked against teams that I was competing against, that was one of the constants. It was that or Dyson Daniels always against me. And Bam got it done. Anyway, being that I faded him, I kind of tipped my hand here, but what do you think next season?
Well, he went for 5 assists in back-to-back seasons in 2019-20 and 2020-21. He was over 5 assists a game. And at that point, I was like, man, Bam, if he can get that up even higher, he's gonna be a fantasy monster. But his assists dropped. They went down to 3.4, 3.2. And then they came up to 3.9 the next year. And then last year, he was back up to 4.3, with his blocks were down a little bit, but the assists were back up, and he was getting a steal. So I like Bam Adebayo. We need to see where Miami is heading into this year. If they're going to go back to the Bam well and continue to have him play the same role he's been playing, he's going to be a solid fantasy center like he always is. And I think, third round sounds about right. For Bam, maybe if he dips to the 4th round, that's ideal. But I could see him being worth a late third.
What's interesting about him is I don't think he could do much worse than 0.7 blocks per game. I don't think he could.
No, that's got to be the floor.
He could. Anything other than that could happen going forward. So he'll get some extra value boost from there. And then there's nobody else in Miami knocking on the door as far as pecking order goes. So he's got a lot going for him. I guess my question is, does he start to drift away from the hoop and take more threes and sort of lose his value by getting more points, less rebounds, worse percentages, things like that. But he just might be a good pick, just a good 3rd round pick, but with a caveat that he might go at like 25 or something and be a little bit too rich for everybody's blood. Next up on the list, a good surprise. I think we got a chunk of it, was Darius Garland. Finished 24, 42 per game. Not much different in 9-cat, despite being a guard. He 32 over there instead of 24. So interesting stuff with Darius Garland. He had a really bad season the year before. He had to practically be talked into shooting the ball during the playoffs. And he actually, in the very end of 2 years ago's playoff run, he sort of had a big game after a really bad season. And then into this season, Donovan Mitchell decides he's going to pass the ball. Everybody else is going to get to shoot the ball. And Darius Garland was one of those guys. Really, really good stat line. Really, really good stat line. Played in 75 games. Dealing with a toe injury here in the playoffs. Cleveland's on the verge of getting bounced by Indy. It's not over yet, but there'll be some bad vibes heading into next season if that happens. What do you think, dude?
Well, the shooting percentage went up from 44 to 47, so that was nice. And of course, playing in 75 games really helped. And the fact that Cleveland was so much better than everybody else in the East, at least record-wise, worked out in his favor. And a lot of it was because he was running the show with Donovan Mitchell. And they were really good together. And Evan Mobley and Jared Allen were really good down low. 21 points, 7 assists, a steal, 3 threes. Like, those are good numbers. And I think this is the season we've kind of been waiting for from him. Like, he's flirted with this. He's done this same kind of stuff, but without the fanfare of him being such a good player. I mean, this is sort of what he does. Those numbers. So I don't know why he wouldn't do it again next year. He usually plays around 70 games. So I'm good with Darius Garland being one of my lead point guards.
Yeah, I think with Garland, I'm a fan of about just about everything he does. I'm cognizant there is some injury risk there somewhere. And I think he's got potential to have the little man get in his head, from time to time. Some really interesting, like late game foul shooting stuff that, you're watching and you're saying, oh, that better not, poke its head into the playoffs. But by and large, he is dynamic as all hell and will be on my radar in the upcoming season just to see where he's going in drafts. He'll probably go really, really high. And that'll be a little bit tough because the profit margin might not be there. But speaking of these Cavs, as we segue into our playoff check-in, now we're recording here on Monday, so we don't have any of the late-breaking information for the Tuesday night game, Pacers and Cavs in Cleveland. Cleveland was a 8-point favorite, and Donovan Mitchell had just gotten an MRI, and I don't have those notes in front of me because they flashed by on another screen earlier. But
he's a game time decision for this game.
And, I mean, how could he not be? And why would you tip your hand?
And Shams told us that he re-aggravated his ankle injury,
which re-aggravated all sorts of stuff around here at Sports.
Which re-aggravated Brew and I, because we don't like the word re-aggravate.
Well, yes, that's the long and the short of it. Yes,
yeah.
But where are you with the series? I mean, you're a huge Indiana watcher, at minimum. I don't know if you're a fan or not.
I would classify myself as a fan. Like I always,
you got like 6 teams, dude.
I always root for the Pacers. I mean, I'm from Indianapolis, dude. That's where I watched that's where I stalked all these players and got all these shoes, was in Indianapolis. So, and all my friends are Pacers fans. So when the Pacers are in the playoffs, I get fired up. And this is a good Pacers team. It's fun, unlike some of the other ones lately. But my spread is showing is Cleveland minus 8.5, which means Indy plus 8.5. Cleveland's backs are up against the walls, but the Pacers absolutely throttled them in Indy on, what was it, Sunday night?
Yeah. I listened to that in the car with the Indy radio team going nuts.
Just a beatdown. Like, it wasn't even a game. And now they're up 3-1. So even if Indy doesn't win at Cleveland, they get to go back home. But they need to wrap it up, because the longer this series goes, the scarier Cleveland is going to be to them. But with Donovan Mitchell hurt and banged up, and Indy coming off such a walloping of Cleveland, I feel like Rick Carlisle and the Indiana Pacers are going to go in there and take care of business. I just feel like it's time, man. It's funny. It says tickets as low as $28 compared to last night's Knicks game. Tickets as low as $501. So you can go to see the Pacers and Cavs in Cleveland for $28.
Dude, I almost want to get a plane ticket and fly out to see it, because that'd be cheaper than a Knicks game. But this, Rick Carlisle's got a ton of experience. I mean, this dude was playing for the Celtics in the great battles between Boston and LA and Detroit and all those guys. This guy knows, as much as we hate him in certain respects when it comes to fantasy and kind of maybe being old school, he's seen a ton. I would be shocked if they don't try to really hit the gas pedal and run even more than they've been running, to try to run these guys into as many possessions as they can with all these injured players. Now, Darius Garland did play a little bit more on his bad toe than, like, the game was out of hand by the end of the first quarter. I mean, you're going to keep your guys in there, but he could have easily taken his foot off the gas. Kenny Atkinson said that he asked Darius, do you want to play? We're going to pull it back because we're going to lose this game. And Garland said, no, I want to get my rhythm back. He went out, he played on that bad toe. Does that make the toe worse at the expense of rhythm? But Kenny Atkinson was sort of like hinting that he was cool with it one way or another, but did respect the fact that he could be hurting himself out there. So if you have Garland, Mobley dinged up, and then you got Mitchell dinged up, make these guys run, put them through the blender, be as physical as possible, because at the end of 3 games, if you don't pick up 1 win, that would be a little bit shocking. So I think they just got to keep leaning into them and tip them over. The other thing here is, like, just basketball wise, I don't know how much better the Cavs are than Indiana, like on paper, or, put them next to each other on a basketball court. Like, Evan Mobley is great. Maybe if he was just a center by himself and then you had a more complementary player next to him rather than Jared Allen, maybe you would extract more value out of him. Donovan Mitchell can be uncoverable at times. Garland's great. They have so many bench players, but Indiana has so many bench players too.
Dude, Indiana's bench is going off. TJ McConnell's been awesome. Obi Toppin has been great. They're just playing well. And Mathurin got thrown out of that game. And,
that was crazy.
It didn't even phase them. Like they just picked it up and laid it down so much harder. So I'm going these two games. The other game that tonight is Nuggets at Thunder.
It's like Denver plus 10.
Minus 10.5 is what I show. You show 10. I'm gonna go. I feel like OKC is ready for. They're due for another blowout. Like these games have all been too close. Denver routed them, or OKC routed them in OKC in one of those first two games. Feel like that has a good chance of happening here. I'm taking OKC minus the points. I'm taking Indy plus the points. And as far as props go, I like Ty Jerome's chances because I don't know that Donovan Mitchell is going to be able to play. And if he is, I don't know if he's going to be effective. I like TJ McConnell. I like Halliburton to double-double. And if it is a Thunder blowout, I think we could have a lot of Isaiah Joe three-pointers coming.
Mm-hmm. Halliburton's been playing so aggressively. He really kickstarted that attack in the first quarter that led to the avalanche. Agree with all of your points. Now, I'll take the other side of the Denver bet, but that looming blowout potential is why the number is what it is, and it's just going to always be there. If Oklahoma City plays well at every position, they will blow you out by 50. That's how good they are. And with regard to Ty Jerome, the interesting thing is he's been kind of almost unplayable in the playoffs. So you're going to get a great value on a guy that can go off in 20 minutes. And he's got all the offensive game in the world, and they'll need it if Donovan Mitchell's not able to go or if he's just a decoy. So some good prop stuff there. And then as far as that bet itself with Denver and OKC, my read on that is Nikola Jokic is still kind of MIA. You know, he had a better game in this last game, and he made some incredible plays. I mean, like some defensive stuff that I would love to just screenshot and put on film if I had the time. Really amazing stuff. But like offensively, he is not participating the way that he is accustomed to participating. And some of that has to do with the Thunder and some of that has to do with him. And for him to not do that for a couple games in a row now, I think he's going to do it on the road. And I don't know if his teammates will come along with him for the ride. And so a lot has to do with the rest of the guys. But for him to be that disappearing for that long, I think that's got to even itself out. And they play these guys tough. Like this is it's a tight matchup unless it isn't, if that makes any sense at all. But so we'll know that early. This might be one of those Rick moves where you live bet it and see kind of how things are going. But overall, I like the game to be close, but I don't know if I like Denver's chances overall. And, this is the bet that they made by not winning that game and not making key plays, the other night here in Denver. So I will take the points, but I am very, very cautiously doing that. And then I am taking Indiana with the points as well. So those are free plays out of the Wager Pass, which you can check out at sportsethos.com. Check out the betting journal. Doc, did you have any final words before we get out of here?
Just 15 of 47. That's Jokic in his last two games shooting. 15 of 47.
That's got to even itself out. And you know what? He's missed a lot of open looks, and he's lost his touch, and he's kind of afraid of it. It seems.
Well, he's got to deal with Hartenstein and Holmgren too. So OKC's built for this. And
every other defender on that team, which they've done a lot of this is Oklahoma City, but I just think with Jokic, like we haven't seen a Jokic game. And I think it would make sense that it happens on the road when nobody's expecting it. And for that reason, I'm hoping that they can keep it within the number there. And with that, that's going to do it. Big shout out to Bet Online, our sponsor, and shout out to you guys. Please send me any feedback. We're building for the upcoming seasons. I want to hear what you guys would like to see around the websites, platform, etc. And shout out Andre for another great job as usual. That's going to do it for Fantasy NBA today, presented by Bet Online. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, be well.